Talk Radio.
Welcome back. Hello, my audience. This is Betsey Bell, and I'm at the Double B Studios today because I have an important show, and I wanted to share it with you before I forgot the whole thing. Now, the reason that I'm saying that is not because I'm trying to make fun of it, but just because it's kind of hard for my mind to wrap around this show. It's called Biden's Economy, the Envy of the World. That is why the name of this show is How Can This Happen, my audience? Part 1 is the color of the rainbow cements faith. Had no idea. Part 2 is who thinks the border's open? I think it is. You could count me in on that. Okay, part 3 is called Pigeon Feed. You know, China's state-run Global Times on Monday tried to take credit for the restoration of Notre Dame by stressing that China was the first country to reach an intergovernmental agreement with France for the cathedral's restoration. As luck would have it, China has a mausoleum that is allegedly just like Notre Dame. Sort of. So highly experienced Chinese experts were able to ride to France's rescue. In February of this year, specialists from the Emperor Tin Shangwang's mausoleum site in China's Shanxi province went to Paris to assist with the conservation and restoration of Notre Dame. China and France have jointly initiated scientific research on the preservation of wooden relics and earthen sites from both Notre Dame and the mausoleum of Emperor Tin Shangwang. This marks the first international study of charred wood samples from Notre Dame. Now, the Chinese team, being the first non-French professionals to ascend the cathedral's spire, so they could take credit for that. The Global Times testily dismissed skepticism from those who might argue that the mausoleum of Tin Shangwang is not very familiar or very similar to the famed French cathedral. Well, that's true. The mausoleum cannot by any measure be mistaken for Notre Dame. That's for sure. When viewed from the perspective of civilization, their commonalities begin to emerge. Says who? Both are symbols of ancient civilizations. Both have suffered from fires, and both face complex preservation challenges, among other similarities. The Chinese communist paper huffed. The mausoleum in question is certainly a site of enormous historical importance. It is the tomb of the first Tin Emperor of unified China, who was buried along with his terracotta army, a famous collection of statues of his warriors, each painstakingly sculpted to be different, all of them arranged inside a scale model of Emperor Wang's capital city. The gigantic tomb was not discovered until 1974, and it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987. So direct parallels between the site and Notre Dame, which was damaged by a still mysterious fire in 2019 and reopened for its first new Mass on Saturday, are not easily drawn. I would have to say not drawn at all. But then, what do I know? What I do know is that I'm not buying mysterious. I think they know what happened. But, nobody is held accountable today. The Global Times rhapsodized about the spiritual relationship between China and France at remarkable length, at one point listing the Wuhan coronavirus pandemic as one of the recent events that brought the two peoples closer together, which is a bit like congratulating the iceberg for helping the crew of the Titanic get closer to nature. To break down the barriers and prejudices between civilizations and to avoid conflicts and confrontations, it is essential to promote mutual respect and harmonious coexistence among different civilizations. Now, this is a quote from the China Global Times. One thing is evident, that when all the minds come together to fix something that is broken, the results are quite astonishing. But I would say the word coexistence here that really does not fit. But where have we heard that before? The pluralist Obama? Wow. Who did he borrow it from? Or maybe it's the other way around. Chinese media have been playing up China's role in restoring Notre Dame since last summer, to a much greater degree than the French or international media. Now, why would that be? Well, I don't know. But there was a comment online by Eugenio del Saz Orozco. He was saying that they have copied technologies, meaning China, music, videos without copyright permits. China is practically a nation of thieves whose biggest business is the mining business. This is mine. That is mine. These are mine. Those are mine. Now, are they going to try to homestead Notre Dame? Oh. My audience, one thing that undid me about the opening, I have to lament. No, I have to say it. Then I promise I will shut up about it forever. What do you think was asked of Mr. Castlebajac? Asked during an interview at his Paris studio as he held up a chasuble, a poncho-like outer vestment that clerics wear for Mass. It is one of 2,000 items, including dalmatic stoles and mitres, that Monsignor Laurent Ulrich, the Archbishop of Paris, commissioned him to design for the 3-day celebration of the reopening of Notre Dame. The medieval church is going to reopen with processions of hundreds of bishops, priests, and deacons in a new liturgical garb, by the French designer Jean-Charles de Castelbajac. My thought is he jacked them with what he charged for this woke presentation. Oh, sorry. That was a loose lip comment. De Castelbajac teamed with French designer Gilles Rosier as project manager, and 19,000 of this group of artisanal ateliers owned by Chanel, which includes Paloma Couture, Lesage, and Montex embroiderers, Goossens Goldsmith, and Maison Michel Millinery. Lots of designers, not so much with the design. I think too many cooks spoil the broth, but then I'm not a designer. We put 3 layers to give the gold depth and catch the light, Mr. de Castelbajac said, as he ran his hand under the fabric to show off its muted shimmer. I guess that couldn't really be captured on camera. Shame. The crosses are surrounded by a burst of charred light patches in red, blue, yellow, and green flocking. The felt-like material commonly used for sweatshirt lettering. Mr. de Castelbajac said the shards, which he cut and glued to the fabric himself, represented the cathedral's stained glass windows and were arranged to recall Radiant Baby, an image by the pop artist Keith Haring of a crawling infant framed by rays of light. Now, you know why I'm not a designer. Mr. Haring, who died in 1990 from an AIDS-related illness, was a friend of Mr. de Castelbajac. In 1992, Mr. de Castelbajac designed vestments for priests, working in French prisons, all with a rainbow as the central theme. Wait till you hear what the Pope said.
This is Renegade Talk Radio.
Renegade Talk Radio.
Welcome back to How Can This Happen on a Wednesday in Las Vegas. We are at the Double B Studios, and I can tell you for sure that this particular podcast is going to be a little bit of a head fake because you have to hang in with me. There's a lot of information to cover today. Now, this part of the show is Who Thinks the Border's Open. But as I left you in part 1, I wanted to clear something up for you. Mr. de Castelbajac knew that the rainbow served as a symbol for gay rights. So when he presented his sketches to Cardinal Jean-Marie Lustiger, then the Archbishop of Paris, he recalled, "I told him you might find this transgressive." What does that mean? "But for me, the link between man and God is the rainbow. It is the symbol of unity. What's so unifying about a rainbow? Plus, I thought it was youthful." Well, are you trying to be young or are you trying to present unity? And there was no copyright to deal with. So the Cardinal said, "That's great, let's do it." De Castelbajac is married and has children. I did not want to implicate his predilections in this podcast. I am of different faith than he is. Yes, we are both Catholic, but my faith is different than his faith. If in fact the Archbishop's vestment represented all the countries that came together, then which color represented America? Just curious. Exploding today was a story in Washington, D.C. Democrats are using their final days in the majority to probe President-elect Donald Trump's mass deportations plan. You estimated, at least in one publication here, that the cost of massive deportation would be $316 billion? Senator Dick Durbin asked. At a minimum, American Immigration Council Senior Fellow Aaron Reichlin Melnick answered. Where the hell is he from? Russia? Immigration advocates are concerned that the plan could negatively impact the economy. Durbin worries that it would also hit the military. To carry out over 13 million arrests in a short period of time would require somewhere between 220,000 and 409,000 new government employees and law enforcement officers, Durbin said. Now, where did he get those numbers? If in fact that was even the plan. Which plan is he talking about? My audience, can you do the math here? There aren't 13 million criminals in the country. But here they go again. Senator Peter Welch agrees the U.S. needs to control its border, but not to group law-abiding migrants who have contributed to the U.S. with criminals. Okay, so how do you group law-abiding with non-law-abiding? See, I get confused even saying it. Easy. You round them all up and the Dems can't resist it. They rewrite every conservative narrative, all of them. I think President-elect Trump has this view. If you are here illegally, no matter how long it took for that adjudication to occur, and no matter what your roots are, then you should go back, Welch said. See? They never speak from what they know. Where did he hear that? Some Democrat friggin' pundit? That is not the plan that Trump laid out. Sorry. U.S. Representative Troy Carter of Louisiana criticized Trump's deportation plan. No real solution, no viable path forward, just chaos, Carter said. I concur. Trump is going to create chaos. But the last 4 years have been nothing but orderly, right? He went on to say, today's hearing should have been focused on protecting our nation from the increasing threat of natural disasters. Oh, now that's my idea. All you libs just keep working on keeping us safe from natural disasters. We'll take the rest from here. U.S. Senator Dick Durbin, the outgoing chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, now we're getting somewhere. He's the outgoing chair, said the United States has 13 million undocumented immigrants who pay nearly $50 billion a year in taxes. Let me repeat that. They pay $50 billion a year in taxes. So here they go again. The Democrats can't help themselves. I'd like to repeat back to them what they say. Dear Dick, did you just hear what you just said? That the immigrants were paying nearly $50 billion in taxes? Is that after New York spent $2.3 billion in cost for housing migrants alone in 2023 and 2024? Resulting in city agencies having to cut costs by 5%? Yeah. You know the old saying, before taxes, after taxes? Oh. So how come, if they're contributing $50 billion in taxes, we're so damn far in debt? Mazie Hirono, she's my hero, one of the most quotable senators in the world. You know what? I think her name is really Hazy Hirono, and she changed it when she became a senator. Quote, I don't think that anyone sitting here supports open borders, whatever the heck that means. You know what, my audience? All of those migrants and legal whatevers are here. And she thinks that you just made it up. All those caravans are just a figment of your imagination. I think we get it, Maisie. And you, my girlfriend, are the delusional one. My audience, I am sure, based on what we know now, this is what the plan was all along. If you keep saying the economy good, Trump bad, border closed, Trump evil, you just start to believe it. What they didn't count on is that you, my audience, get it. They're totally full of shit, and they don't want you to see who they really are. Too late for that. I was only able to gather this information for you from Rob Schmidt on Newsmax because he highlighted this hearing on his show last night. There is no outlet even touching this today, anywhere, any place. So what does that tell you? You aren't getting news. All you are getting is bits and sound bites that the media wants to throw at you. Ever seen someone throwing bread to pigeons in the park? They run and gobble everything up, and they steal it from the other birds before the other birds can eat it. That is who Democrats think you are. A bunch of pigeons. And by the way, pigeons will eat anything. Are you tired yet? This is the Double B Studios, and How Can This Happen with Betsey Bell. And I'm telling you, my audience, this one is rough. Biden's economy is the envy of the world. The world must not be very busy. But this part 3 is about pigeon feed. Now, prices rose at the fastest pace in 4 months in November, the second consecutive month of accelerating inflation. So the Consumer Price Index rose 2.7% from a year earlier. The Department of Labor said that on Wednesday. Core inflation, a metric that excludes volatile food and energy prices. So remember that the core inflation number doesn't include your food and energy prices, which are the highest prices of all. Wow. Climbed 3.3% over the previous 12 months. Now, the results match the forecast of economists economists surveyed by Econoday. So small business optimism is at its best level in years, with the outlook metric of the National Federation of Independent Businesses measure of business confidence, jumping in November for the biggest monthly gain ever recorded. What happened in November? Oh, November 5th? Really? Inflation has worsened since the Federal Reserve began cutting rates in September. A controversial decision that critics said was premature and risked needlessly fueling price pressures. The labor market has proven to be more resilient than Fed officials expected, with the economy adding more jobs than expected in November. The Atlanta Fed's real-time measure of economic data suggests the economy could be growing at a 3.3% pace if Biden wasn't president. I wonder why, if the Fed cut interest rates, that is bad for the economy. Well, that's why I'm not even in charge of my own bank account. I can't even balance my own checkbook very well. All things numbers make me illiterate. I'm not good with math. I never have been. I know you get it. 2 + 2 = 4. I thought someone proposed that wasn't true. Oh, that was a Democrat. You're right. There isn't anything that isn't a saleable point. President Joe Biden said that Donald Trump will inherit the strongest economy in modern history and warned the president-elect not to return to trickle-down economics in a legacy-focused speech on Tuesday. I'm sorry, but this is so tiresome. But as Biden took credit for the nation's economic recovery out of the COVID-19 pandemic, he did compliment Trump for one decision, putting his signature on the COVID stimulus checks sent to Americans. He went on to say, within my first 2 months in office, I signed the American Rescue Plan, the most significant economic recovery package in our history. I also learned something from Donald Trump. He signed checks for people. Biden said in a speech at the Brookings Institute, a center-left think tank. Ya think? And I didn't, stupid, he said to laughter, adding, but all kidding aside, when does Joe ever do that? More Americans give Trump stronger approval marks on the economy. Poll after poll has shown, after high inflation for most of Biden's term. Some voters who supported Trump in last month's election say that they appreciated the checks issued during the pandemic that bore his name, leading to speculation they didn't remember Biden's stimulus because he didn't put his name on it. The majority of Biden's speech was focused on defending his economic record, even as Americans' negative views on the state of the economy and inflation helped Trump defeat Biden's vice president, Kamala Harris, in last month's election. 4 years later, he went on, Biden, my gosh, you should quit while you were ahead. He said that we have proof the playbook is at least now working. That's what he said of his economic approach he framed as focused on strengthening the middle class. Gosh, they just don't give up. Biden said that Trump will receive an economy that is the enemy of... Oh, sorry, that was Freudian. Biden said that Trump will receive an economy that is the envy of the world. Yeah, he means the envy of Venezuela. Crediting investments by the Biden administration to spur domestic manufacturing in microchips and clean energy, historic spending on infrastructure, and efforts to cut health care costs for Americans. But Biden warned that by all accounts, the incoming administration wants to return the country to another round of trickle-down economics and tax cuts for the very wealthy that will not be paid for. Biden said Trump has the mistaken belief that foreign countries will bear the cost of those tariffs rather than the American consumer. Who do you think pays for this? Biden said. I believe this approach is a major mistake. I believe, Biden, that you should have exited stage left a long time ago. However, since you want to continue this total sham, he ended his speech by touting a series of strong economic metrics under his watch. 16 million jobs added in the U.S. to the U.S. government since he entered the White House, the lowest average unemployment rate of any president in 50 years, a gross domestic product that's increased by 3% annually. I thought we just disputed that. And a year-to-year inflation rate that is back down to 2.6%. My audience, this is what he's telling you that you already know. That his approach to everything is right and that you are wrong. You just voted your conscience, and he's telling you that you are wrong. You are nothing but a pigeon, groping all the other pigeons for scraps, while he is the moral equivalent of a perfect economy. You didn't feel that. You didn't struggle. You didn't use your credit cards to buy groceries or to put gas in your car. That was your imagination. So no joke, Joe. Is it my imagination? Or are you leaving the White House in a cloud of broken policies and a plan that only worked for you and your crime family and friends? I wish you luck, Joe. Is your retirement enough to support you and Hunter? He's got some big needs and stuff. Apparently, so do you. Is that what you meant by trickle-down economics, Joe? What's left over is what you get, America? No joke.